Welcome to Improv Comedy, where it's all about improv. It's all about comedy all the time. All the time. Not just sometimes, all the time. Because that's also what Zazen is about. It's about every moment being mindful. And why do we practice mindfulness? Why is humor so important? Because if you're not mindful of your mind states, you can become victimized by your own mind states. See, it starts somewhere external, but at the moment it becomes internal, it becomes your domain. But a lot of people aren't really capable, seemingly, of getting out of bad mind states when they're in bad mind states because they think it's them, when in fact there's variability. There's really no rationale for why you feel good or bad at any one moment in time. Today is sunny like yesterday, but why are you greedy today when you could be when you could have generosity instead? Just think again, all these people have all this money. They're so damn greedy. They just keep wanting to fill their bank accounts instead of spreading the wealth, like common wealth. You go to places you've never been before, and they're flourishing and are cultivated and well run and maintained because someone somewhere was generous. Perhaps it was their forefathers. Perhaps it was their neighbors. Perhaps it was just someone. Perhaps it was a saint or a sage or a philosopher or a poet or a writer or a comedian that did work for free. What did the people in Athens pay back Diogenes with? What did he get? Like, maybe they did pony up some food every once in a while. Maybe there were a few generous people. Maybe that's how he survived. But maybe he also gave back. He gave back so much that we can say the name Diogenes. And there are some people that know what a wealth transfer he made as the brokest man in Athens. So guess greed is bad. Why is greed bad? Because it appears to be good, but it ends up being bad because you take too much. That's the definition of greed. Imagine some bratty kid at a birthday party shows up, grabs the whole cake and eats it. That type of kid, that's the greedy person. That's the greedy impulse. And if you have, what will a just mother do who baked that cake, by the way, that this fat little greedy kid wrecked? What will happen to that kid? What would the other children think when they see what happens? The other children are quite disappointed. The other children didn't get any cake, nothing. But the fat, greedy kid got too much. That is greed. Simplify these hindrances. And there are greed in small, stupid things like that really are allegorical, where you can see it, and it really is disgusting and stupid and wrong. But it also happens on a macro scale. It happens on a cultural, social, financial, political level. People that say, oh, I want all the power because I have all the solutions to all the problems, which is me enriching myself into the stratosphere while the entire country is impoverished and the conditions there are messed up, where people are living on $200 a day or less. And it's not about the currency, right? It's really about quality of life, the ability to self-actualize, because the economic preconditions are there, but not just economic, social preconditions. You have a generous society, people who are generous with their time, generous with themselves, so that they can generously cultivate their best attributes and rigorously weed out the bad attributes, such as greed, ill will, and delusion. Why is delusion bad? Because you don't see it coming. You don't think you're greedy. Guess what? You're greedy. That's delusion. So before you can get to the greed, you got to get to the delusion. And this is where we start coming to informational politics. Like me, I consider myself an academician. I am not about taking things away from greedy people because I'm greedy. I don't want their things. I don't. But when people take too much, what should I say? Say, oh, look here, oh yeah, it's wonderful that these people are causing all of this problem. They took away entire cities, entire people's lives because they wanted something more than they had. Is that right? They needed more land. They needed, more respect. How about that? They need more respect because they're not being respected. People don't fear them enough. Imagine that. There's a whole matrix of hindrances and delusions and misleadings that the human mind and groups of people can get into. And in a lot of cases, it's a precondition for subnormal behavior, which then leads to subnormal results. And you can see this in the macro. When it comes to social policy, you can see it in the macro. What statistics skyrocket and what plummet? For example, life expectancy plummets. Is that not an indication of neo-barbarism? Why are these people, why are citizens not being cultivated? Why are they being considered just throwaway rag dolls that have no inherent value? Why is that happening? Well, we have greedy people with delusional ideas, like social ideas, like zero-sum gamer ideas, like I'm going to take it because if I don't take it, somebody else will take it type of thinking that self-rationalizes, self-justifies itself. To the point where war, what is war? Well, it means getting. So, but why do you need to get something? Well, you don't have enough. Well, why don't you have enough? Like, why don't you start there? Now, if the answer is these people at the top make it impossible to do anything and they've taken away everything, well, then people have a legitimate claim, don't they? Isn't that despotism? Let's take off all the moral finger pointing. What is despotism if it is not that? Why don't we just consider that to be despotism? And despotism is run by despots, and despots are what? They're greedy people. They take too much. They're the definition of greed. So, but the problem is when these people get this out of control, where it becomes a social contagion, which leads to mass war. Is self-defense the wrong strategy? I don't think so. I think self-defense is the natural reaction of human beings. It's the natural, we don't even have to go talk about humans or Westerners. We can just look at animals. You throw a softball at a deer, it's gone before the softball hits. What did it do? That was an act of self-defense. Could it have predicted that you were going to do that? No, but it was ready anyway. It was a reaction. So were we going to say the deer aren't moral enough because they have inbuilt self-defense mechanisms? Is that how far we want to go with what? Inverted morality? Which is where we start getting into all of these psychological attacks that are becoming very vogue right now, such as misinformation, disinformation, people following race car drivers on Twitter that have opinions about things that they don't know anything about, so that they believe like that what's happening isn't really happening the way it's most likely happening. So you got you got degrees of people, like they're maybe 15% for this idea, 20% for that, and it doesn't make any sense altogether. But that's enough from keeping them from making the most realistic conclusions, which would also lead to perhaps more self-defense measures than they're engaging in, such as filtering your damn information. And also filtering it for real immorality, not the people that are saying that they're moral with a lot of agitation, but what is moral? What is good? What is the opposite of greed, ill will, delusion, for example, and start to cultivate that. Cultivate that internally, no matter what. But at the same time, we're living in a compromised informational environment. So these problems have never really been part of the human experience. We are also animals. Just think of all the time, prehistory, all the civilizations that have come and gone. They did not have this type of informational problem that we in our neo-barbaristic times do. You can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different versions of reality, but guess what? Not all of them are equally good. A lot of them are also equally bad. Then we have the monopolization of the distribution of information, bottlenecked in the form of companies and other actors. Is that beneficial? Is that generous, or is that greedy? Like wanting to think that you have a monopoly on reality, when in fact, you don't. You're not in control of your basic hindrances, your basic fetters. And this also goes for the experts that think they're so damn clever. You know what you have? You have egoic protection that keeps you from understanding things like that you could have been tricked in your informational spheres about certain topics. Maybe you're right about 8 things, but you're wrong about 2. You have to be able to admit that. If you can't admit that, if you think you're right all the time, if you think you're one of these skeptics, you can be manipulated. Because being skeptic is also a hindrance. It's akin to doubt. I don't believe anything because I can't know ultimately what is the truth. So you can be thrown off center from so many different attacks psychologically. You have to really be aware and really start getting into the practice of coming back into balance and letting things go, including egotism, the belief in the self, belief in your own smarts all the time. Because a lot of these people that have a lot of insights today about all this information were victims of Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. It's a real syndrome. So, and that was a 1984 phenomenon. Agitation. And for people that got caught up in that, you have to do some self-reflection. How did you get into it? Who were the people doing it? What did that lead to in your own life? Also, perhaps shifting you politically in the wrong direction, into the wrong groups, leading to wrong things like the breakdown in what would otherwise be a unified body of civil society against organized crime, for example. You don't think these people think far enough in advance to have secondary and third and fourth type of attacks on all different types of people, including young people specifically. They don't really care about old people. They just, like the old people with all their outdated, obsolete values, they've got a demoralization and dehumanization program for them, so that they just die in complete isolation with TVs on that you can't turn off type of generosity that these Malthusian actors have for the elderly. But they are really concerned about young people. And also, you know, just the people in general, younger to middle age, and then they just kick you, like I said, into the gutter after they used you as a useful idiot that was used as a a torpedo against their own kind, like kicking goals for them into what isn't a game. It has really horrific downstream effects when people do that. You've been tricked into thinking that you're doing the right thing, you're attacking the right people, and you've gotten into the conspiracy why that is. And there's people writing every day, like thousands of them, in questionable places, getting paid questionable money to make all of those narratives seem plausible. Again, it's understandable that that can happen, but it's not really forgivable from the outside. Now, internally, you can work on it. Being fooled and rooked and tricked and conned, you can work on overcoming that. But the people that you injured during your illusional states of mind, your delusional states of mind, they might not forgive. This is something, for example, Japanese, man, we can learn so much from the Japanese. This is a non-Western culture that is in fact very advanced. And they've also curated things. They didn't stay back in the Middle Ages. They picked some things. They were able also to reflect on historical occurrences. What is greed? Yeah, greed is the moment when you're out of balance. You're taking too much. So why don't you cultivate what you have, which is, guess what, more than enough. You always have enough if you cultivate it. And it's not out there. See, if you get these spiritual materialists, people who are just looking at numbers, this is a way they are delusional. Well, this company earned 30% more than last year. So is there anyone in the room, especially the shareholders, that will say that I did the wrong thing when I canceled the culture of the company? Yes or no? And just imagine like a conference room with these hogs in it. Well, Jimmy, I guess he has an argument. Why? Because they're greedy too. Greedy people backing each other up and using the same statistics. Same time, again, life expectancy plummets in that area. Maybe it's not even recognizable on the community level, which is what these things were built to serve, the communities, not some globalized class of people that don't give a damn about, for example, sewage in lakes. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of raw sewage flowing into lakes around Manchester, UK. Famous ones, legendary ones. Then they got an explanation why they moved 300 million to various laundromats legally via dividends. They got a story for that because that's what they're paid to do. Greedy people. What about all the people swimming in the lake? What about all the aquatic life? What about the importance, the significance of the largest lake in England being turned into a toxic waste dump? What about that? They don't care. See, they're greedy. Greedy. So greed is not a good thing. It is not. And people who think it is, you need to rethink what you're doing. Because it is a good thing when you lose whatever you've been hoarding, whatever community you've been strangling. It's great when you're gone. Like sometimes in history, you've had some greedy fathers that just hoarded everything, grandfathers, and when they died, some human person, some human part of the family inherited all that wealth and put it towards the right thing and not decadence, not luxury, not palaces and servicing your ding-a-ling with whatever is the most expensive thing out there. No, putting it towards projects, useful people, How about artisans? Like this is oh yeah, art's so expensive. See, they try to recapture art with their materialism. But the artist, the people who paid the artists, they're dead and the artists are dead. But we have the art. So is it about the money? Was it about the money for them? What was the money they were paid? So, but oh yeah, we got it and we're now going to sell it and we're going to flip it and we're going to do this and that. We're just going to buy it because we know we can flip it. These types of subnormal people then became to dominate the art scene. They get to determine the rules, who's in and who's out, and yeah, who's flipping what and this and that. Greedy art's not good. How about libraries? You know, Carnegie. I think both Carnegie and Ford figured a couple of things out, but they died. Carnegie less sooner than Ford, but if they had just realized sooner that it is the cultivation and the spread of wealth to the right places, by the way. You throw wealth onto a weed patch, you're going to get gigantic, enormous weeds. That's what you're going to get. So this is, again, spiritual materialization. Oh, it doesn't matter, just people. But look at what greed is getting Ukraine now, when in fact, if you had dumped a whole lot of investment, but also you can't have investment without having security and also not having a legal or fit political system that works, then all of that talent goes to waste. And you could see it's not just Ukraine. All of Eastern Europe has been totally neglected, totally run into the ground, which is proliferated organized crime in these areas because they're so hopeless. What are the people to do when there's no working economy? But why is there no working economy? So you got greedy people that are the politicians who are, again, organized crime. How can you start? What's the chicken or the egg? But these greedy people, they're not going to let go of that birthday cake. No, you're going to have to pry it. And see, when the mother takes that kid out and paddles his butt, or maybe something even, but I wouldn't even go that far, but it really is dependent on the mercy of the mother. And may God have mercy on them and also on the children that make such foolish mistakes. And that they learn and improve from those mistakes, and maybe it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It doesn't have to be that catastrophic. It doesn't. You can catch it before it gets to that point. And also just not giving things to be good, because you can't just give things away and be good. That's also very stupid, very vulgar, subnormal way of thinking of things. Oh, I stole this money, so now I'm going to put it to things that don't make any sense either, and I'm going to somehow get some better karma for that. That's not how it works. Like, see, this is a really stupid way of seeing things. But the good news is you can reflect more. Whatever you're doing, you think your schedule's all busy, you got a calendar that's like out 4 months, just start writing in meditation. That means not thinking about anything. Giving yourself the permission to not think about anything for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And then growing nothingness in your calendar so that you can free your mind up from this junk that you've got up there, because you've got a lot of junk. And the problem is once the junk goes from the outside to the inside, it's your responsibility to cultivate it out of your mind. Nobody else can do that for you. I cannot reach into your mind and push the buttons for you. You have to realize that you have the options and that you need to start pushing the right buttons. Do not get yourself agitated. Agitation it's a way of seeing bad things. And bad things come from bad ideas, bad people, bad analysts, misleading, misinformation, disinformation, suppression of information. You don't know everybody in the world. Imagine if something happens and 1,000 people scream at once. who's right and who's wrong. Yeah, a lot of people are relying, especially everybody below 100 IQ, it's unfortunate, they're relying on systems to work. They are, which is why we have all these problems, because dumb people can be made dumber. See, again, people from the Enlightenment, they've been beaten over the head with the Enlightenment. That's the only possibility. No, we have people that are being taught to be misinformed, like on all these issues. Like, and you can see it during wartime because it's more extreme than you could have imagined. It's like people telling the other people that they were attacked when, in fact, they attacked the other people. That type of black and white instance of all of these professional liars presenting facts that way to, again, people that might not have enough sense to think their way out of a broom closet. Okay, let me out! Boom, 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 boom. You open the door, like, look, there was a handle on the inside. You just had to turn it like this, you see. And oh, I didn't know. Next day, dum, 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 I'm in the broom closet. Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, you best believe they love what happened during that whole presidency, and they want it back in some form or another. If it's not Trump, it's going to be the other guy. Or maybe Biden he loses his contacts. They flip on him. Then all of a sudden he's the face of 1984, that all of the proletariats, the honorary ex-bourgeois proletarians get on board hystericizing about. So no, that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you at all. Your self-proclaimed uber morality, that is a delusion that you have. You need to work on that. But again, you don't need to work on it. You're just going to get the fruits of your subnormal way of thinking, which is going to be in the form of subnormal results. That's how it works. It's like a mathematical formula. Now, the only thing that's saying it's not going to happen like that is delusion, which is flipping what you think and what the reality will be. But that's the delusional. So you're putting on those glasses, and have you ever seen like these? Think you're of like Coke bottle glasses that invert the horizon. You've got those on in the form of your informational diet that you've been manipulated into. So I do advise pulling plugs on people and starting over at zero. Why not just take a year off from all of that jazz? Do it. Take off a month. Start with a month, and maybe it'll become a year, and maybe it'll become a lifetime. And you'd be doing yourself and everybody else a favor if you do that. So do that. And do it for yourself, because you will be the primary recipient of all of that goodwill or neutrality. I like neutrality. I like equanimity. I love it. Equanimity is a lot better than people think, especially greedy people. So, but when greedy people get stopped, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But greedy people think it's a bad thing. Greedy people have other greedy people saying things to rationalize what they do, but that just makes them visible. When you see it, detach from it. It's like think of it like a wall. There's a hole in your wall, you patch it up. You stucco over it, and it's as good as new. No need to. You don't need to hear an air siren if there's no missiles flying. You don't. But we're going to turn on the air siren, no missiles. Oh, we thought there was missiles, saw missiles. No, it's not the way it works. But they will attempt to do it, and the more it's worth it to them, like in a life or death struggle, the more they're willing to go to do anything to make that happen. Which is another thing, like these refugees, everyone's like, oh yeah, they're safe. They're not safe. outside of Ukraine. They're not safe anywhere. This is, for all intents and purposes, a world war already, certainly on the socio-political economic side. So if you have to be skillful everywhere, in other words. Don't think there's a safe zone. Because if they can't get you militarily, they'll try to get you somewhere else, which, for example, psychologically, all these young women doing all these dumb things, you can't all recover from that. It's not just a way of life. In a way, it is a way of life. You'll end up taking the wrong trajectory with one wrong relationship, one wrong stupid idea, and your life is cooked. You will be one of the fentanyl statistics. And people just put that number out there, 100,000 people per year. Those are all lives. They are all lives that mattered. And the lives in general matter. And so that's why society was set up to protect and guide people that are perhaps more of a trusting nature. But we don't have that security, certainly not in the West, not right now, not in this day and age. Now, it might change, but for now, you're on your own, just like everybody else. And really, it's strange to expect that somebody would take care of this problem from you. And there's simple solutions to complex problems, which means not necessarily storming the institutions, but disengaging from them, disengaging from any type of agitatory nonsense that you might have, and reorientation towards tried and true models, because that does work. And these sales pitches of what is modern and whatnot, they're not there to sell you a better life, even though that's how they're presenting themselves. It's quite the opposite. Not just for you, but for your potential children and for society at large. So just think of the common consequences of mistakes like that. And then, again, the people who mislead all of these young people. And I'm not just focusing on the ladies. The guys are getting side-swiped left and right with wrong ideas. But be that as it may, I know that good is good, right? And bad is bad. It's really that simple. So you go the bad way, you're going to get bad things. It's about that simple. You go the good way, you get good things. So do be mindful. That's my message for today. Be mindful. Thanks for listening.